you can't say you are just fully technical. That's too simple. Three touches you buy, three touches you sell. Nah, I don't believe there's anything like, oh, trading psychology, I'm not mentally stable. Don't focus on the profit. The thing you should focus on is getting your first payout, at least $400. Majority of newbies who get funded never get to pay out. You only prefer day trading on one condition.
Is it Joel? Can I call you Joel?
Yeah, you can call me Joel.
Joel, hi.
I'm fine.
Good. Right, well, thanks for taking the time to do the interview. Thanks. Maybe you could just introduce yourself to the community. Tell us a bit about yourself, where you're living, how long you've been trading, that kind of thing.
Okay. So my name is Joel. I'm commonly known as Joel Michael on the timeline. I stay in the UK. I'm based in Nottingham. I've been trading for about 4 years plus now.
Okay.
Yeah.
What brings you to trading? What attracted you to the trading?
I think for me, it's the freedom that comes with it per se. Because if you look at it, in terms of 9 to 5, I've actually never worked a 9 to 5, right? So I can't really give, so I can't really give a quote on that, right? But I did internship when I was doing my undergrad. And that stress of being in the office from morning till evening, and then the only weekend you get is so fast, because sometimes when you're done on Fridays, before you know what happens, you're back to work on Mondays. That's always very, very fast. So for me, the freedom that comes with it, and the fact that you can do trading no matter where you are, right? So that's one thing that comes. I like it. It's quite fun.
The freedom geographically, the freedom time. Yeah, it doesn't really get much better. All right, so what brought you to FundedNext?
My friend actually, TechRiz brought me to FundedNext. The thing is, the first probe I actually traded was my forex fund, right? But then I didn't get to pass it and all that before they closed up and all that. And FundedNext was like getting very, very popular, the likes of FTMOs. Now, at first, I was never interested in FTMO because of the 10% phase one. I was like, that's so much. Then FundedNext, when I did the research about it, they have this reputation of paying people big amounts. So, it's always good to trust firms that can pay big funds, right? So you know that, okay, if you make that kind of money, they'll be able to pay you easily. And I think recently, starting from this year, I love the promotions you guys had. And one of them was if we don't pay you within 24 hours, you get $1,000. That takes a lot of guts for a firm to do that, trust me. Yeah. And I don't think any firm will actually implement that anytime soon.
No, probably not.
So that's very good also.
Yeah, it's quite a risk to take. But...
The news, I love the platform for news, because most firms, there's a lot of slippage, yes. But I've seen cases whereby FundedNext would not trigger the stop loss, but when the trade closes, it closes with the actual risk that you placed, that's the actual loss, right? You could see you float big numbers, but when the trade is closing, it's closing with the actual loss you risked. Yeah. So that's one thing I can recommend for.
Yeah. We have a pretty good. The liquidity provider we have is pretty good. I think it's LMAX or Global Prime, one of those guys. So yeah, it's pretty tight. So. Good. I'm glad you're happy with the spreads and the trading conditions. So, what do you trade? Are you FX trader or equity trader?
Commodity mostly. I do dangle a bit into currencies, but most cases, every time I take trades on currencies, I take losses and then I come back to my pair, which is good. And the funny thing is, I've traded gold the longest, and because of that, over the years, I'll be able to have a mastery on it. I know how it moves, when it moves, and a whole lot of other things about it.
Yeah, gold's a favourite. It's a good pair, isn't it? It trades well. It's pretty volatile, but yeah, it does pay. Okay, so how do you trade gold? Are you swing trader, day trader?
Swing trading actually. It's more fun. It's more fun because if you want to catch the move, you have to hold it longer, right? And I think I've had this discussion with a lot of persons, a lot of traders too. Most persons avoid swing trading. They prefer day trading. And I keep saying that you only prefer day trading on one condition. It means your lifestyle, you're not a patient person, naturally, right? Because it takes a lot of patience for you to swing, right? And the funny thing is, when it comes to trading gold, you can't say you are just fully technical, right? You take a lot of losses if you're fully technical. You need to also be very good with the macro part of it, right? Understanding news, not just CPIs and all that, because most persons understand the forecast, but they don't understand the actual information behind it, right? Because there are cases whereby I see news with favored dollar, but then again, gold is still buying regardless. So there's a lot of information. Then looking at the wars currently going on, most persons can just wake up, gold is buying. They don't know why it's buying, but they see volatility, right? So those are things we look at on the side, and that's what helps us stay longer in the game and all that. And I trade my own concept, which was also refined from Wyckoff. And funny enough, when I started trading, the first technical course I studied was Wyckoff. As a tech person, I did software engineering, right? One important thing is I like to go for things that are very, very difficult for people, right? For example, when I heard about the trendline strategy, I'm like, that's too simple. 3 touches you buy, three touches you sell. Nah, it's not sophisticated. Do you get? I need something that people are scared to do, because most cases, things that are so difficult for people to understand tend to work much longer, right? And if you look at it, people will compare, because I do see people compare ICT to Wyckoff. I'm like, you guys lack respect, because this guy, Wyckoff, has been there even before the guy was giving birth to. And most of his concepts were adopted from Wyckoff. But most of these ICT traders will tell you, nah, AMD belongs to ICT. I'm like, okay,
No,
all right.
It clearly is Wyckoff derived. I mean, how else? I mean, a spring in Wyckoff, that's obviously
Exactly. It's liquidity grab. Do you get?
Yeah, no, I get that. I don't understand why there's that a huge amount of denial there. But anyway, okay, so you're a bit of a technical trader, but main bit of fundamentals as well. So maybe
Yeah,
50,
so I would say I'm like technical 50-50. Yeah, perfect.
Okay, all right. So you're looking at what yields, you're looking at tips, yeah, risk off, risk on kind of measures, that kind of thing, but also a bit of Wyckoff just to get in them, maybe for the entry itself. Yeah. Okay. Can you share a screen? Maybe show us an example of a typical gold setup.
I'm going to show you one of the best setup I had this year, which was the one I had for my live account, and which was this, right? It was a 24-hour setup. So ideally, I do take
21 hour. Okay, what's that about?
Okay. So literally, I focus more on 4 time frames: 23, 21, 5 hours, and then 45. But I don't really use 45, except I'm trying to like go lower, right? I can get my entry from 5 hours regardless.
Yeah.
Okay, so my concept is called...
pretty custom time frames you're using there.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It's not the usual time frame because of what you will see.
Okay, go on. I'll let you explain.
Okay, so my concept basically is called range theory. So you know how Wyckoff, we have selling climax, automatic rally, then secondary test, then we'll have another secondary test in phase B. Some cases we would have a spring, right? Some cases we just have LPS before market pushes up, creates another LPS, and then confirms back to the upside. Right, so this is the ideal strategy for Wyckoff. But the way I did mine, I did more of refinement, focus more on the law of supply and demand, right? Which is range. Now, I understand fully well that when market creates a range, 2 things can either happen. Markets can either break to the upside or break to the downside, right? And that will actually give us the actual direction. So in this case, what I'm interested in, I want to see what market does prior to that. So let me take this back, all right? So at the time this was happening, there's one thing about gold. If gold is refusing to sell at a certain time, I do expect to see aggressive buyers take over. Now, in this case, what I saw here was first, this was like a spring that was taken here, right? So this what ICT guys would call a turtle soup, right? Kind of pattern. You just pick your entries from here. Yeah. And then at first, I missed this entry. This would have been a perfect range, because according to my strategy, this is a range and this was a mitigated range. This range created this high, but then again, the high didn't take out the previous one. So I can't really give it that entry, right? So it's more like it's quite risky. But then again, I have to be very, very patient with the type of entry I get. And one thing is my stop is always very, very tight. And I do place my stop on the wick of the candle. I do expect that if price is going to push up, it should not go below that zone. So in this case, what I did see was first, I saw that this pattern was broken off. This is just your retail idea of trend line, right? Those who wait on the retest and all that. And then I'm looking at the next range, which is the range that created that break. And in this case, this is that range at this level here. So I'm very focused on this. I'm just waiting for market to just come back within this area, take my entry. So my default RR, because I think it's mostly 10R. And for this setup, I had multiple entries. I had about 4 entries. I had entries at 2159 first, 0.4. Right. Then I had entry at 2170, 2184, and all that. Because I kept scaling in, knowing fully well that the direction was to the upward to the upper side, right? And there's one thing I do. On the weekly, I did analysis on weekly to forecast possible next level movement. I called gold to 2,200, 2,300, then 2,500. So at first, most persons thought that that's not possible because price is here to ever be at this level, right? So imagine you are seeing this and price has never been to 2,3 before. And then someone is telling you gold is going to 2,300. Of course, you would doubt, right? You say, nah, you don't believe that's going to be possible. Because a lot of persons saw short here, right? A lot of persons saw shorts. And then what happened, if I play this forward, we see this. Now, this is the interesting thing about gold. The moment buys took over, majority started looking for a retest or a break of this level. So most persons will call these breaker blocks and all that, right? Or flip zone or break and retest, right? So this is where we have a lot of persons taking unnecessary losses because that is not the actual direction. So gold likes to do what we call aggressive pullbacks, right? Not all cases. For cases where you see it, you think, oh, probably when this sale starts, you don't really see buys again. People are like, I think the sellers are back in. Look at the rejections at the top. I don't really think the buys will hold anymore. And then what do we see? We see price mitigate like this. The reaction occurs at this level. And then what am I interested in? If I was to scale in, then go to the lower time frame, like 1 hour. And then the next range I'm seeing is this level here, because this range created that break to the upside. So I'll just simply mark at this level again, waiting for price to come back within this area. Now, there are a lot of persons also trying to short here because they believe because of this bearish move, right, to the downside, market might likely come back. And this is where the trap is, because I do see this as inducement. You know what, I think price is going to come back here, mitigate, then continue back to the lower side. Now, most persons also say, oh, this is inverse head and shoulder. Price might actually correct and then continue back down. So I do see all these things because when it comes to trading, I trade, even though I'm bullish, I also want to see what others are saying to know where to target, right? And then I want to wait for price to come back to this region, yeah? And this was the next entry I had, 2170.5. And this was the entry that gave me the highest profit on the account. This was about 6,000, right? So the same target. But this, I didn't really take this to 2-3. I think I targeted around this level here for this second entry. Yeah, because it's important to make money, but then what's more important is closing the trade. I do tell my friends, I can take setup that would give me 50K, but if I see 10K now, it's best I close the trade and know that, yes, I've secured 10,000, right?
At least take some partials, yeah, sure.
Exactly. So we had this. So then again, we see this aggressive break. This trade was really close to my stop loss, but I didn't get kicked out. Thanks to FundedNext on that. And I was happy about that because most cases, I don't like to adjust my stops. You know, some persons, when price approaches that level, they go like this. I'm like, nah, don't do that.
That's a slippery slope.
Yeah, exactly. It's more like saying you no longer trust what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
So this was exactly what market did. Pushed back to the upside, came back down, had multiple entries, and then the first target for this was taken. I also had entries around here, right? I had entries around here. I kept on scaling in, knowing fully well that, oh, the first trade is protected at break-even, right? And do you know the funny thing? Now, when people see my RR, they think, oh, I go aggressive. But when it comes to like live account, I risk 0.5%. Even if I'm very, very sure of the setup, I still risk 0.5%. So even if I know this setup is going to be ping pong kind of entry, just tap and go, I will still risk my 0.5 because what keeps you long in the game is risk management.
Yeah.
The funniest thing about
with
this,
these risk rewards as well. I mean, you only need to risk 0.5. I mean, yeah.
Exactly, right. And the funny thing was, this live account, I was in drawdown, right? I think my account was around 94,000, 95. So recently I've not really been moved by drawdown anymore because of my risk to reward ratio. I know that if I should get a trade that will do 10R, I will scale out. And from the drawdown, I think I made about 16K, right? And that took me up from drawdown, make the profit of 12K on top. And then that was it. But I held on to this trade for long because I remember closing this setup only when price got to April 10, right? Because my payout was April 11. I'm actually holding the setup to 2.5 because that was like the target I was expecting. But when we got to 10th of April, my friend Chris was like, oh, you have to close all your positions at least 24 hours so that your payouts can come the next day. I was like, oh, I never knew. So I closed the trade around this level. Let me see. I think I marked it out. 1 minute. Yeah. So I closed the trade around this level. Let me just take off this. And just bring this back. So yeah, I closed the trade around here, 10th of April. Right. And that was like 24-hour setup. Quite easy strategy. I don't really do too much.
Yeah, nice. I like it. I mean, it's not to use ICT terms, but essentially you're using order blocks which produce a expansive move higher, and then you're waiting for the retracement back into that order block, just so people understand what you're trading. But yes, it's good, excellent. So, works well with gold. You get that you always get that deep retracement with gold, don't you? Right back to that order block, the start of the buy program, the sell program. So if you have the patience to wait for that, then there are some great entries with gold.
And the funny thing is sometimes they know that a lot of persons are waiting for orders there. Like if you look at this level here, right? They knew that a lot of persons were waiting for this to happen because that's the same exact thing that happened here prior to that move, right? And what they did was they took out everybody who tried to enter before their level, right? Wicked it, then pushed back to the upside. So currently, I still believe gold is bullish regardless because most persons who want to look for short, this is the range that is currently moving price to the downside. And then there's opportunity to look for entries within this level. So that's how I trade, basically, just simple ranges. And I don't like to mark my charts too much. I don't like seeing like a lot of lines and all that. I just want to keep it simple, know what the market is doing at a certain level, and then pick my entry.
Yeah,
at that zone.
Price action is key, isn't it?
Really yes, very, very important.
Useless unless you understand price action. Is there any particular? I know you're a swing trader, so but are your entries in a particular time window during a day?
Yeah, I mostly trade New York, but sometimes I've discovered something. Gold moves during New York, but also gold moves at night, like a lot, right? During the seeding session. That's because Australia is one of the biggest producers of gold also. So there's volatility at night. And that's always very funny because most times, because of that, I stop setting limits before going to bed. Because I could wake up to loss, right? So I'd rather wait till the next day than look for my setup. And I'm always asleep, mostly during London session because I sleep quite late, right? I sleep like 3, 4 a.m. and all that, like every single time. So I like to take my time, sleep throughout my London. Moreover, I'm not really like busy with any other thing. So
New York is generally the best time to trade, isn't it? We're looking for entries anyway. Asia, London, Globex, they're all creating a range, isn't there? So there can be manipulation, there can be stop hunts during that period of time. So sometimes it's best just to leave it till New York to get that crisp entry in New York. All right. So yeah, we talked about your strategy. We talked about the risk reward there. You're risking about 0.5, which obviously is ample when you're looking at sort of 10 hard trades. So you don't really need to risk any more than that. We talked about the spread with gold. Obviously, it's excellent on FundedNext.
I do use an indicator. So I have like 4 lists. The first one you see here is swing highs and lows, right? It just marks out the swing highs. And then the next one is the next one is my favorite, which is this. So the blue line shows you the weekly liquidity, so the weekly highs and weekly lows. So I just want to see these are targets, right? So because I swing, If probably April was a bullish month, right? So the moment I enter through this level, I could be targeting previous month's highs, right? Expecting price to take it out. Same thing for if I'm looking for short, previous month lows. Or if this week was bearish, next week was bullish, right? So there's possibility that third week might want to tap into the lows of the second week, right? To get like more movement. So it's more like it's coming to pick passive orders created at this level, right? So which is more like pending orders, right? And the other one is the session, the normal Asian London sessions. And then my favorite is this session volume, right? I don't really think I've seen a lot of persons use it. Most persons don't really understand it. And that's this volume you're seeing, right? So if I go to 1 hour,
market profile.
yes, yeah. So it shows me who has more orders in the market, right? So if I was looking at this current leg, what I do see here is we have about 33 in terms of buys. So regardless of this fact that market is still selling, buyers are still more in this move, right? And if I wanted to sell this market, I want to wait for buyers to push price to at least this level before selling, right? Because sometimes I look at momentum again, right? I'm seeing like reduction in candlestick momentum, right? And one thing about gold, in a bullish trend, I try to avoid selling. No matter how sure I am that the sell will play out, right? I just like to stick to that bias. And every time I attempt to do that, I just take unnecessary losses, which is also part of trading. So risk to reward keeps you longer in the game, regardless of losses or wins.
Okay, interesting. So you find those market profiles even useful on CFD feeds like this? Yeah.
Yes, I also use them as targets. If I was to sell, probably I would target the next point of control that was created at this level. Because at this area here, we see that there are more sellers, right? Yeah. Over 114,000 shots being placed, even though the market had bullish move, right? So it means regardless of that, sellers will still push price as low as this.
Okay, interesting. Okay, very nice. All right. Well, thanks for sharing your strategy. Could we see your FundedNext dashboard? I mean, you don't have to show it, but if you...
Yeah, I can. So like I said, my account is currently in drawdown also, so I'm not really moved. So this was the account. I moved it from the balance. So it was 250k accounts separately. I merged them together.
Hang on,
right?
You'll have to share a different screen. I think we can still see gold.
Oh, sorry.
You'll have to switch screens also. Yeah.
Okay. So this was the account. I merged 250k accounts. And even prior to this payout, my first payout with FundedNext was last year, right? And that was the first time I was trying out one step. And I do think FundedNext have one of the best one-step program, because you guys are the only firm with one step that the payout is every 5 days, and then it's also balance-based drawdown. Right? Most one-step program offered by different firms are mostly either trailing or relative drawdowns, right? And I commend that. So that's actually very beautiful. So I took the account 100k. I was in a drawdown up to 95, right? So I took two setups. First, the first goal I showed you, and then that pushed price all the way to 112. Then we moved until I placed withdrawal. So I had 12,000 plus floating, right? And then I closed the setup. Now the account again is in drawdown, which, like I said, I'm not really moved again by drawdown because I do know that two setups will bring my account back.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I also recently got a 200k account. I'm currently in phase 2. So once I pass that, I'll be max funded with FundedNext.
Great. Can we see the statistics for that current?
Which one?
If you go to trading overview.
Detail stats.
Yeah. Oh, okay, so there's only one trade at the moment. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So I think it clears off after your payout.
Yes.
So every single time it clears off. Okay. But I would have showed you my best trade was on gold. I had if I'm checking my MT5, sorry, I had a setup that gave me the first entry had $1,000. The other one was 2,000, 4,000, then 6,000, 4,000 again. Now, and the funniest part of this last 4,000 was the last time was just 0.6, but because of it's a swing setup, right? That was over 500 people, and that made over 4,000. So
Nice.
that's still the risk part, right? So I was risking around $500. I think it was $250 on that particular trade, and I made 4,000. Then the one of 6K, I risked about 500. Then I made 6K.
That's the way to do it. That's the risk reward you require. Great. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Joel. Well, thanks for sharing your strategies and your thoughts. And just final thoughts. Any suggestions? Any tips? Any advice you could give to traders out there who are struggling to get funded or pass evaluations?
Oh, yes, I do have some. I think the first thing is, you know how most persons say psychology. I will tell you that there's really nothing really like that when it comes to trading. I don't believe there's anything like, oh, trading psychology, I'm not mentally stable. What I believe is your pockets, right? One thing I've discovered is over time, if you keep buying prop accounts with the last funds you have, you would never pass it, right? If maybe you make £1,000 a month and you spend £500 buying a 100K account, you would never pass it. And the reason is because of pressure. So it's not like psychology. You are not comfortable yet and you're spending way too much. In finance, right, it's best to always save 30%, then keep 20% for spending, and then the rest could go into emergencies and all that, right? Because you can't really tell when something bad will happen. Now, rather than spending 500, you could always start small. So I had a student of mine who also wanted to get a large account. Then I asked, how much are you earning? Rather than buying this account, knowing fully well that you almost go broke, get a 5K account, just a 5K account, pass it, regardless of the fact that the profit you're going to make is going to be small. Don't focus on the profit. The thing you should focus on is getting your first payout, at least $400, and then you can buy a bigger account. Because most persons will spend $500, buy a 100K account, fail it, and then there's nowhere to go back to, right? And that's quite funny. And the interesting thing is, once you're able to overcome that, it becomes easy for you to trade. Now, sometimes, even if that setup is right, the fact that you are scared of taking a loss because you know this is the last amount of cash you had that you use in purchasing that account, you are going to be scared and you are going to close the trade early. There are traders who will come to me and tell me, this setup, I was so sure about it, but the moment I saw $100, I closed. I was scared of losing. I'm risking 500. And then there are those who would always break even so fast. At a point, I never broke even, right? So I recently started breaking even on live accounts, knowing fully well that I want to protect the account, make more profit, withdraw, go again, just like that. And then most persons think trading is easy. Regardless of if you have too much money, if you don't have the technical skill, you're still not going to pass an account. There are those who are very profitable on normal accounts, but they can't pass a prop account. The reason is because they think because it's normal live account, they can do whatsoever they want. Now, if they also practice prop firm rules on their live account, they will also find it difficult to trade on that account. The reason is because most of them are just looking for a miracle, let's put it like that. Because sometimes you see persons, today they make 12,000, then the next day they have lost their account, right? They have blown their live account and all that. It's because they lack discipline. So for you to be a better trader, there's nothing like psychology. Just admit, do you have the pockets? Do you have the cash in your pocket to fund it? If you can't, go for a lesser account. Rather than buying 100K account, you could buy like 3 5K accounts. Try your luck. If you pass one, good. If you make out profits, payouts, you can get probably a 50K account, right? It's easy for you to scale up, right? And then you just have to take your time. There are some months I will be losing. I'm not really bothered because I know that it's part of trading, right? Some months you'll be profitable, some you'll be, in losses. But the idea is you should never also change your strategy because you take losses, right? I saw a video from my friend. He said, if you take 10 trades and you had wins at all, it means your strategy works, right? As long as out of the 10 trades you had wins, your strategy works. All you have to do is focus more on understanding how the wins played out. Because most persons only backtest their losses, they never backtest their wins. Now, some of your wins, if you go check your chart, you could see that you got lucky, right? There was no actual reason for price to buy from there, but it did. But most of them think, oh, there's no need for me to check. I made profit. This setup I showed you, if I tell you I've spent most of my time understanding why price moved that way than even the losses I had. Because it's important to understand your losses. It's more important to understand your wins, because over time, in terms of pattern recognition, you'll be able to see that setup that played out perfectly, no matter the time frame, right? There are some setups I see when I'm sending my trades to my friend. I'm like, there's no actual bias. I'm just telling you I'm buying from here because I've seen this last year. I will specify. I saw this 2023 May. That's the reason why I'm taking this setup. And then it goes on, plays out. Now, experience is another thing, right? You just started trading. Don't think you just become a magician and then pass a profit. Some of them are lucky. Yes, I do see newbies lucky. But the most important thing is majority of newbies who get funded never get to pay out.
No, you're right.
Right. And that's because they got lucky. Market just moved. They scaled in, risked more, funded. And it's more painful because I do tell myself, I'd rather fail on phase 1 or phase 2 than to get funded and lose the account, because that's more painful. It's more like I wasted my time getting funded just to lose the account. And another thing is, no payout is too small. I do see people pay out 500, 1,000. They post the certificate, they block the amount. Let me tell you, if you keep blocking the amount, you are just telling yourself you don't believe you can do better. By the time you post your certificate with the little amount you have made, it will encourage you to do more, right? So you come to your post, you are seeing your pinned post, you made $500 payout. If you continue doing what you did to get that payout, your next payout probably will be 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. So the idea is to keep the consistency, right? And then don't be scared. You can always fail challenges. The fact that you paid out does not mean you can't lose the account. You can lose the account and buy again, go again, trade again, pay out again. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, no, it's good advice. Stop buying the big accounts, buy the smaller accounts, get the consistency, get the confidence. Like you say, you're not wasting the money every time you blow accounts on a huge amount of money if you lose. Plus, it gives you all that confidence and the ability to buy another account. So, yeah, great advice, John. Thanks for that. I'm sure that will help a lot of traders.
Surely will.
So, right, taking up too much of your time. Thanks for the interview. Good luck with the funding.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much. Have a nice day, Simon.
See you again. And you, sir. See you.
Sure. Bye.